Coming up on Citrus TV's Syracuse men's basketball preview show, we start our look ahead by looking back.
We reminisce at the roller coaster 2012-2013 season that included injuries, ineligibilities, a run to the Big East Tournament Finals, and ended at the Final Four in Atlanta.
We also sit down with members of this year's squad and head coach Jim Boeheim. All that and more next on Syracuse men's basketball preview show.
Strap on your headband and lace up your Jordans. It's the 2013 men's basketball preview show from the Carmelo Anthony Center. Thank you for welcoming us into your home. I'm Darius Joshua.
And I'm Gabe Altieri. In just a few hours, it'll be Media Day here at the Mello Center. Some new faces coming into the fold as members of the Orange for the first time, but some key players returning as well.
That's right, Gabe. Last year it was a stellar year for the Orange. They started out hot, stumbled, but then shocked some people in the postseason, coming just oh so close to eternal glory.
Yeah, they came so far, but in the end, it didn't even matter.
Rakeem Christmas to take the tip against Deshaun Stevens. And we are underway in the Battle of Midway and the 2012-2013 season.
He's undoubtedly one of the greatest coaches in college basketball history. And now he's won 900 games.
You win these games with the support and with players, and I've had tremendous players for a long time.
Word just came down from the SU athletics department. Forward James Sutherland is out indefinitely due to an eligibility issue.
James is our teammate, and we feel for him.
Bounces down low for Jang. He loses it. Double team comes. It's stolen away by Carter Williams with 5. He outlets to Fair in the front court. 2 seconds left. 1. Syracuse upsets #1 Louisville on the road. The Hoyas beat the Orange 57-46 in front of 35,012 fans.
And the Hoyas put their footprint on the Orange, 61-39. Carter Williams passes to Fair. He'll put up a right wing 3 at the buzzer, and he gets the friendly bounce. Everything is falling for Syracuse at Madison Square Garden.
We played as well in New York as we ever could have hoped for, and that's really what we thought about coming down here to try to get ourselves back on track.
10 years to the day from the last time Syracuse went to the Final Four. The Orange is on its way again.
You can go ahead and pinch yourselves because Syracuse is here. The Georgia Dome, the site of the Final Four.
Cooney's into the front court. He gets to the free throw line, attacks right side, goes up strong, no bucket, rebound down to Michigan, falling out of bounds, ball is saved for the Wolverines, long outlet, up ahead, and a monster slam for Jordan Morgan. 1 second left, entry to Trevor Cooney, and that's the ball game. After a magical March, the season ends with disappointment in April for Syracuse.
What they've accomplished is I think incredible this year. I don't think I've ever been any prouder of a team for where they've come.
Losing sophomore guard Michael Carter-Williams is going to be one of the biggest challenges for this SU squad to overcome this season.
Yeah, and when Michael Carter-Williams was drafted in the first round by Philadelphia this past June, he became the 5th Syracuse player to be drafted in the first round in the past 5 years. The point guard was 3rd in the NCAA with almost 8 assists per game last season. However, in the NCAA tournament, he showed he could score the rock too. Carter-Williams averaged over 10 points per contest.
And the benefactor of a lot of those MCW assists was James Sutherland. But last year was an up-and-down senior year for Sutherland. He missed 6 games due to an eligibility issue, but did score over 20 points 8 times.
Sutherland's fellow senior, Brandon Trish, also turned pro, but he's across the Wild Blue yonder in Italy. The 4-year starter managed over 13 points per game in his senior season.
It's not often a team has a 6'6" point guard, especially one that's good on defense, averaging nearly 3 steals a game. It's also not often that same player is good on offense, averaging nearly 8 assists and 12 points a game. Now imagine having to replace a guy like that when all you have is a freshman and a player that did not live up to expectations last season. Well, that is exactly Jim Boeheim's dilemma this season, and Citrus TV's Evan Weston takes a look at how he plans on handling it.
It was the sentence Syracuse fans had dreaded for months.
With the 11th pick in the 2013 NBA draft, the Philadelphia 76ers select Michael Carter-Williams from Syracuse University.
The player who had quarterbacked SU's run to the Final Four, gone to the glory of the NBA. And the Orange coaches have their hands full replacing him.
You know, Michael was a great defensive player. He really was. I think it was underrated. Probably is one of the, he's probably the best defensive guard that we've ever had here.
And Michael was obviously a top pick in the NBA draft and a big-time talent and did so much for our offense. You have to have the guys that were here last year and part of a Final Four run to step up and contribute, and obviously we have some special pieces coming in as freshmen.
Perhaps the most important of those freshmen is point guard Tyler Ennis, a five-star recruit from Ontario, Canada, who's set to start from day one.
A lot of people, would shy away from expectations and challenges, but I think, choosing a school like Syracuse is something that, that comes with it.
I think Tyler's is a steady player. He knows how to play. He plays like a veteran point guard as a freshman. I think he's, probably as well prepared as any freshman point guard that we've had coming in as a freshman.
That's high praise from Coach Boeheim. Freshmen don't usually get big minutes at Syracuse, but if the early returns are any indication, and this just may be the exception that fills the shoes of a departed star. Evan Weston, Citrus TV.
The Orange has a pretty big task replacing MCW.
That's right, Gabe, but luckily for them, other positions on the floor do have some good experience. And it all starts with senior forward C.J. Fair. The Baltimore native returns after averaging 14.5 points per game. He also snagged 7 rebounds a game as well. Fair would become the 58th player in SU history to record 1,000 points in a single career. He led the team last year, scoring in double digits in 33 of SU's 40 contests.
Fair certainly provides a lot of offense, and so does sophomore forward Jerami Grant. Well, at least he's shown he can. Grant led the team in scoring during its Canadian exhibitions in August with 13 points per game. While Grant mostly came off the bench last season, he showed his durability stepping in for the suspended James Sutherland.
Well, we can't talk about returning players without mentioning the big men. Junior Rakeem Christmas is expected to return to his starting role, anchoring the 2-3 defense.
Don't forget about the other senior on the squad, center Bai Musakeda, or as I like to call him, Big Game Bai. He averaged just under 4 rebounds and 4 points per game in a humble 17 minutes a contest. Well, those are the key returners for SU, and when we return, out with the old, in with the new. What fresh faces look to make an impact for the Orange this season?
Plus, the Orange returned all of its post players from a year ago. How do Dajuan Coleman, Rakeem Christmas, and Bai Musakeda plan to improve this season? We let you know next when Citrus TV's men's basketball preview show returns.
Turning a 20-foot wall into a canvas takes vision. So will getting into college. I've got what it takes. So do you.
Hey, my name's Katie and I'm in the 9th grade. I'm an A average student and I'm an athlete working towards a scholarship. And everybody tells me how much potential I have. But I just wish someone would tell me where my next meal is coming from. Katie, how'd I do?
Do you have to be so serious?
Well, I mean, I did like a crazy dance in a movie if you want me to do a little, no.
Play a role in ending hunger. Visit feedingamerica.org/hunger and find your local food bank.
Back inside the Carmelo Anthony Center for Citrus TV's 2013 Men's Basketball Preview Show. I'm Darius Joshua, and he's Gabe Altieri. And you know, Gabe, Orange Madness is fun, but it's really just the same thing, just a different day.
Yeah, the old players are used to it, but the new players are just out there trying to get it, each and every way.
That's true. During a season, times get hard, and there's only one thing to do, and that's hustle. Hustle hard. But the only problem is the rookies just don't know how to do that. Not yet.
And speaking of rookies, have you ever seen that movie, Rookie of the Year?
Is that the one where the 12-year-old pitches for the Cubs?
That's right, and while SU might not have anybody that young, they do have some pretty fresh faces, and the first one has some pretty high expectations.
And how about we start with that hype freshman from Canada. Originally from Ontario, Tyler Ennis played high school basketball in New Jersey at St. Benedict's Prep.
The next new face on the team is Tyler Roberson. The forward didn't join the team until early September because of some academic issues. Another forward on his way to the Hill is BJ Johnson. The big fella hails from Lower Merion High School. That's the same one as Kobe Bryant. In the Canadian exhibitions, Johnson averaged about 10 points and nearly 5 rebounds per game.
The last two additions to the SU squad are Chinoso Oboko and Ron Patterson. Oboko is the lone new center to the squad, coming in at 6'10". Patterson comes in at shooting guard after a year of prep school at Brewster Academy in Massachusetts, where he was New England Prep School Athletic Conference Player of the Year.
And with that, it's time for the ceremonial changing of the guard. And I guess some forwards, too.
That's right. Last season's Final Four squad featured a senior, a junior, 2 sophomores, and a freshman. However, with Brandon Trish graduated and Michael Carter-Williams off to the NBA, there are some holes that need to be filled.
That's right, but it could have been worse. CJ Fair decided not to enter the NBA draft early and stay for his senior season.
That brings us to the new look team with a new look starting 5. Now, some things do stay the same, but subtle changes are changes nonetheless.
Let's start with what stays the same. We mentioned some of them already. CJ Fair returns. SU fans rejoice. He's preseason ACC Player of the Year. There's also Rakeem Christmas, who will most likely keep his spot at the 5, joined by now sophomore Dajuan Coleman to fill out the back line of the 2-3 zone.
The biggest changes come at the top of the key. With both starting guards leaving last year, hype freshman Tyler Ennis and second-year player Trevor Cooney are expected to be the new guards joining the starting 5.
We all have a 5-year plan. For me, I want to be retired and living on a beach in Hawaii. And while that might be unrealistic even in 50 years, what SU does to develop its big men in 4 is quite the contrary. CitrusTV's Ben Peck takes a look at what SU does to bring out the best in the bigs.
Anytime Syracuse gets a big-time recruit at center, those around the program will usually tell you the same thing.
Big guys take the longest to develop.
But why is that? Well, it's tough going from King of the Hill in high school to just another 6'10" guy in the rotation.
I was just bullying people, I was always bigger than anyone.
Not to mention big men in college are quicker. A lot quicker.
I remember when Fab was a freshman, it was just so fast that it was like, it wasn't his talent, it was the speed of the game. I think that's a big deal.
All right, so there's the adjustment period to the physicality. But what's the first thing coaches focus on after that? You guessed it.
For here, definitely playing in the zone. That's the main thing.
That's, from the responsibilities where you can be effective, positioning your body.
So what about the offensive end? Well, instead of being good at everything, the SU coaches have a different approach.
I don't try to give them too many things. I try to give them a couple things that they can be great at rather than a lot of things they're just going to be okay at. I want to give them something to go to.
Any newcomer can benefit from some senior leadership. First it was Arinze Anawaku, then Rick Jackson, and now Bai Musakita.
Being an upperclassman, the younger guys always look up to you, so you're always trying to help them improve because it's always hard for them.
I think Bai's phenomenal. You can walk out of this freshman year and say, I'm going to be a great, I can play the zone like Bai, you will play.
Next time the Orange has a freshman center with great expectations, fans may want to remember what Jimmy Eat World had to say about the middle. It just takes some time. Ben Peck, Citrus TV.
Back here on Citrus TV's 2013 Men's Basketball Preview Show, joined now by sophomore forward Jerami Grant. Thanks for joining us, man.
No problem.
All right, now coming into last year, you were a freshman, going to play in a new conference, and now this year you have a new conference once again, but the difference is you have a year under your belt already. So what do you think the biggest difference is for you coming into this year compared to last year?
Definitely just a different role. Coming into this season, I have a different role than I did last year. Going into last year, I was more of just an energy guy, but this year I have a lot bigger role, scoring-wise, defensive-wise, and leadership-wise.
You talk about having that bigger role, and obviously in Canada during the exhibitions you led the team in scoring. So what do you think offensively you have to really bring to the team?
Just being aggressive, being a lot more aggressive than last year. We lost a couple leading scorers on the team last year, so definitely this year we're going to be looking for offensive spark.
So last year you said one of the games circled on the schedule for you was playing Notre Dame so you could play against your brother. What was it like for hearing that Notre Dame was also come to the ACC so that you could play him at least one more time?
It was great. They had already talked about Notre Dame coming. We didn't know which year they was coming, but definitely excited to play my brother again. Probably one of the best games last year that I had.
Oh, yeah, definitely a big game for you. But is another game scheduled maybe for this season playing against Maryland, in Maryland, that maybe get some home fans there for you?
Definitely. That's going to be a good game, a big game for me and for all the fans back at Maryland. So definitely looking forward to that game as well.
All right, thank you, Jerami, for joining us. Good luck to you throughout the entire year. That's Jerami Grant, sophomore forward, joining us for a 2013 men's basketball preview show.
Coming up on Citrus TV's men's basketball preview show, Michael Benajay had to sit last season after transferring from Duke, but now is ready to contribute. How much can the Orange expect from the former Blue Devil?
And the man himself comes on the program. Jim Boeheim sits down to talk about his expectations for the upcoming season. That and more next on Citrus TV's men's basketball preview show.
Know what?
What?
Since I got adopted, I've learned a lot about these humans.
I know. I mean, check out these two. It's Flirt City over here.
Yeah, I noticed that. It looks like my human is definitely into your human.
Oh, look! I think she's getting his number.
Nice.
Your human's got some sweet moves.
Takes after his dog. Oh, look, they're doing that thing where they put their arms around each other.
She kicked up a leg. It's like in the movies.
That's awesome. Looks like we're going to be hanging out a little bit more.
Today, about 1 in 5 Americans is living with a disability. Over 50 million people, including many of our friends and neighbors, teachers and co-workers, heroes and leaders. 20 years ago, the Americans with Disabilities Act guaranteed every person the right to live, work, and participate fully in the American experience. We've come a long way since then, and we are committed to making even more progress in the years ahead. Visit disability.gov to see how you can help.
The 2013 men's basketball preview show rolls on, and we still have a lot more for you. But if you miss any of it or our Citrus TV content, you can head to our sports blog where we have full interviews from SU Media Day at sportsblog.citrustv.net.
We're also on social media. You can check out live game updates from SU game action on our Twitter account at Citrus TV Sports. We also have tons of filters where you can share all of SU's moments on Instagram.
Speaking of sharing SU's moments, Michael Benajay may have to share the spotlight. The Duke transfer, normally a forward, may have to play some point guard this season, a position on the team with the least amount of game experience. Citrus TV's Katie Williams has more on how the sophomore plans to step into the new role.
When Michael Benajay transferred from Duke after his freshman year, he had to sit out a season. But that doesn't mean the sophomore took time off from the court.
I think he's improved as a player. I think he really used his year well. I think it's helped Mike. I think he's had really good practices so far.
In his year off, Benajay stepped into a new role. To fit into Coach Boeheim's game plan, the small forward had to transform himself into a point guard.
Mike came in and he was really, really skilled and talented, but one thing he needed to do was develop a little bit off the dribble, and now you see him running the point, so the drills we did, some of the work we tried to put together really paid off.
Until he started working with Coach McNamara, Benajay had never run the point, so he faced a steep learning curve. And everyone on the coaching staff has noticed improvements.
When he was in high school, he was more of a guy on the wing that would catch it, 1 or 2 dribbles and attack the basket. Now he has the ability to come off ball screens. He can bring the ball up and get us into a set. So it's ball.
But learning a new position won't even be the toughest part of the season.
Getting back into playing mode. Sitting out last year, it was hard to find motivation, but I think my biggest mode is now having to adjust to playing game after game.
even if the sophomore is a little rusty at first, the Orange expects him to be an important piece of this year's squad.
Well, Mike's got a role that's as important as any role on this team. Mike's going to be in a role where he can win games for us from a lot of different areas, and a lot of players can't have that impact.
Despite the challenges, expectations are high for the Duke transfer. Coaches hope the sophomore can provide leadership on a team that features only 2 seniors. Katie Williams, Citrus TV.
We're back here at the Mello Center for Syracuse men's basketball preview show. Rolling along here, and we're now joined by Syracuse head coach Jim Boeheim. Coach, last year at this time, you sat there and you said that team was more ready for the season than any team you could remember. Some people questioned it at the time, but you guys end up in Atlanta. What's the feeling with this year's team?
I think it's a good team. I think they're ready. I think we've got a good mix of veterans and young players. We've got good size. I think our front line is maybe arguably as good as it's ever been in terms of depth and guys, skill positions, guys that can do things. So yeah, I think we're in a good position.
You've mentioned that there's not a huge change for you guys going to the ACC because it's a competitive conference to a competitive conference, and you've joked around the biggest difference being the food and things you have to try there. But seriously, what's the biggest difference to you changing leagues?
It's a tough conference. I don't see a big difference. I mean, obviously you're playing teams that you haven't seen, so you don't know them that well, but on the other hand, they don't know us that well. So I think that kind of balances out. But there's some familiarity. We've obviously played some of these teams. We're in our league and some were in last year. So we're going to have more familiarity than we would have had a few years ago.
Trevor Cooney is an interesting player because he faced maybe more criticism than a player like he should have going into after last year. What are you kind of expecting from him this year?
Well, I think last year he was really, we had 2 veteran guys. We had a senior guard in his position. And, he wasn't going to play a lot. And when he did play, I thought he did some really good things. And I think he's gained some confidence from that. He's, I think, improved. I think he's more consistent this year. And I think he's really worked his way into a position where he's ready to play a lot.
Any thoughts on Baimu Cicada's impression of you at Media Day?
I didn't. I saw a little bit of it. It was okay. Not bad for Bai. Not bad.
Do you have an impression of him?
No, I did a little one, but it was, Bai's a great kid. He's worked hard and he really improved every year as a player. He's the kind of player, as a coach, you're really proud of because he goes to work every day and he gets better. And that's really what you hope for.
Well, Coach, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Syracuse men's basketball show rolls on next.
Let's see. We've hit the new faces, the big men, and the starting lineup. What else is there? Well, how about the schedule? When CitrusTV's men's basketball preview show returns, we show you what games you're going to want to circle on your calendar. Also, we dive into the powerhouses of the ACC.
So, I just moved in with his family, and it's embarrassing. The little one, he likes to go outside and crawl around in the giant litter box. I don't know what he's doing. I mean, I was born and I knew how to use the litter box. Look at that! That's disgusting! Oh, poop already! You're making me nervous. Oh, okay, I can't look at this anymore. I really hope he grows out of this, for his sake.
Back inside the Mello Center for the 2013 Men's Basketball Preview Show, I'm Darius Joshua. He's Gabe Altieri. And Gabe, there's going to be a lot of new crowds that the Orange face this season.
That's right. A whole lot of unfamiliar opponents for Syracuse in 2013-2014.
That's true, but let's get to the familiars of the non-conference schedule first.
And it starts with a matchup against in-state rival Cornell in the Dome on November 8th.
That's right, and things only get tougher from there. Usually the Syracuse Orange never travel that far from the Carrier Dome during the non-conference schedule, but this year the team plays in the Maui Invitational in late November. That includes a matchup against Big Ten team Minnesota. As if that weren't enough, SU also takes on Indiana in December in the ACC Big Ten Challenge.
That's a rematch of that Sweet 16 game from last March. Speaking of rematches, a couple of old Big East friends are on the schedule in December. Syracuse takes on St. John's at Madison Square Garden and ends the non-conference slate with Villanova in the Dome. This is a totally different non-conference schedule than we're used to seeing with Syracuse. So, Darius, after those familiars, it's time for the unfamiliars, SU's new conference opponents in the ACC. The first one is Miami in the Dome in early January.
The Hurricanes are one of the only teams SU plays twice this season, and after that big home game, the next one is against North Carolina inside the Dome. UNC was picked third in the preseason coaches poll, right behind SU. After a home matchup against former Big East opponent, the Pittsburgh Panthers, the Orange then make a quick road trip down to Coral Gables, Florida for that second game against Miami, and also make a stop at Wake Forest before returning to the Dome.
The month of February starts with one of the biggest games of the season. The Orange takes on Duke in the Dome. Syracuse and Duke are the top two teams in the ACC preseason coaches poll. February also features games against familiar foes Notre Dame and a matchup against Pittsburgh on the road. The Orange finishes the month on the road, heading to Durham for round 2 against Duke, a battle that could be for first place in the ACC. Then they head to the land of the Terrapins to play Maryland.
Not much happens in March for the Orange before all the madness starts. SU heads to Virginia for a road game with the Cavaliers, then return to the Dome for the last home game of the year against the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, and then end the regular season on the road against Florida State.
So those are some of the games the fans might be excited for in this upcoming ACC schedule, but what about the players?
We caught up with some of those players and found out what their thoughts are on the new conference.
You know, media day is media day. It's a little bit, it's kind of like going to the dentist, you know. I mean, it's something you know you have to do. You got to do it. It's good for your health, but you really don't look forward to it.
What you doing? Get to the corner. Come on, son. Don't you know he's a shooter? What do we say at video? He's a shooter.
That's usually what Bai does. He kind of swats at the ball, and we hope that there's another player there that can pick it up and put it in, because he's not good at catching the ball.
So there's a good restaurant in every city. I'm not worried about that. I mean, New York has 50, but you can only go out once or twice. So we'll find one. We even found one in Durham.
Well, that's it for us from the Mello Center for Syracuse Men's Basketball Preview Show. Remember, Syracuse kicks off the season with an exhibition game against Holy Family on November 1st, and then starts the season November 8th against Cornell in the Dome.
And you can get live in-game updates from all our social media accounts for those two games and all the games during the regular season. On Twitter, we're at CitrusTV Sports, and on Facebook, facebook.com/CitrusTV Sports.
And don't forget about the shows. We have Q's Countdown, the preview show for Syracuse men's basketball. That's available on Time Warner Cable Sports Channel and also on the Orange Television Network. There's also Orange Press Pass, the live post-game show for Syracuse men's basketball. And don't forget On the Bench. That's where you can catch highlights not only of men's basketball, but also every sport on the Hill.
I'm Darius Joshua. He's Gabe Altieri. And for the 2013 Citrus TV Men's Basketball Preview Show, thanks for watching. Have a good night, Syracuse.